Well, hi there, friends. Welcome. I thought this was all set up, but clearly it was not. Welcome tonight. It's What's Up Wednesday with Diane, the Creative Inkster. Today is Wednesday, February the 8th. I had to really think about that. Um, Welcome, and thanks for joining me. If you're watching live, please let me know in the comments, and if you're watching the replay, pop a little note in there. I love to check in with you and see what you think about these projects that I'm sharing. This card was a swap card from one of my team members, Lee, and I posted it on a sort of like a morning post to share as an idea. And someone said, "Whoa, we'd like to see how to make that one." So here we go. It kind of flips up and the left flips out. So it's all a basic card base with a few little pieces added to it. Let's figure out how to make this together. I think it's really cute, and I think you could do it with lots of different papers. I'm literally going to show you how to cut everything from scratch on this one. So when I go to do a card like this, actually most cards to be honest, and I'm using pattern paper, I'll look at that pattern paper and figure out, okay, hi Vicki, what colors are in there? So in this one, there was some pool party, and she was pulling in some blues and some neutral colors, and I just really loved how this one came together. There was just a little bit, the card colors were just a little bit different, and it just made it pop that much more. So what I'm choosing to work with, let's keep that handy so I have it close at hand, is some of this designer series paper that comes free during celebration with a $120 order. There's like 48 sheets of 12 by 12, like it's a great deal. And lots of really fun, cute, easy to work with patterns. So in this is, I'm going to pull it out because you know what, I want to make sure I get the right ones here from the celebration brochure. Here we go. So it's called Dandy Designs on page 14 of the celebration brochure. This is ending February 28th. And we've got Fresh Freesia, Granny Apple Green, Mango Melody, and Petal Pink. And I decided to grab the Fresh Freesia, but as an offset color, I didn't really want to go with a neutral. I decided to go with Gorgeous Grape. Two reasons: I rarely use it, and also because it's like you can see this color in here. Oh, sorry, I forgot to read. There's also Balmy Blue and Calypso Coral in this, but it's a little bit darker tone of that Fresh Freesia, I think, and so I think it's a good one to work with here. So that's why I chose it, in case you were wondering. All right, let's get our card base going. So we need a standard card base that's 8.5 by 5.5. So I'm going to grab my paper trimmer, and when you want to cut a piece to 8.5 by 5.5, hi Brenda, you're going to want to take it along the 11-inch side and cut at 5.5. So we'll slide this in the paper trimmer. Now we have two card bases. Awesome. I'm going to set one aside for another project. So this is 8.5 by 5.5. I want to score it in the middle at 4.25. So I'm just going to grab my paper in the trimmer, line it up at 4.25 on the left, and using the scoring blade, which is the lighter color blade on the trimmer. The darker colored one is the one that cuts. Now some people put theirs in so their scoring blades at the bottom and others at the top. It's kind of whatever you want to do. Mine just tends to be at the top, and then you're not going to goof up, right? Because you're going to see that you're going to be doing it at the same place all the time. So I've scored that at 4.25. So let's now burnish this guy, just so I can see the score line easily. Now for this card, I'm going to open it up, give you the visual on it. I'm just going to close that piece. So if this is your card base, looking at it from there, we want to cut from the score line on the right hand side down to the bottom corner. So we're going to stick this back in the paper trimmer, and along the track here, if I put the score mark and kind of hold it with my finger there and put the point down here, when I close it up and cut it off, I've got that nice straight angle. So that's what we've done, is this piece here. Okay, so then on the, we don't need this anymore, we're done with that. So then on the inside, we're going to do a piece of pattern paper. I'm just thinking through whether I wanted to do all the cardstock cutting first or what, but I'm going to do it as if I'm making the card. So I would do the card base first, and then I would do this inside piece, which is 4 by 5 1/4. So this scrap piece that I have is 5 1/4 wide already, so let's not have any waste. Let's just cut off 4 inches. And this is double-sided cool pattern paper, so I can decide, do I want the dots on the outside triangle or do I want the dots mostly hidden? I think actually I will put the dots on the outside. I think I'll get the most visual on that. So this is the piece that's going to go down on the inside of the card base, 4 by 5 1/4. Let's glue that down, and then we're in business. Use your paper, I mean your Tombow liquid glue or your Stampin' Seal, whatever you like, but you don't want to pop this up. You kind of want to just lay this guy right down. So they don't look like they'd be colors that go nicely together, but I think they do. This is the petal pink on this side against the fresh freesia. Let's give the score line a little bit of help here. There we go. So there's our card base all set and done. I'll stick that to the side. The next thing I'm going to work on, if I'm working from the bottom up on my card, is this little mini card on the inside. So it's 8 inches wide by 3 inches across. So from my fresh freesia, and go back to that piece that I had left over, and I'm going to cut it to 3 inches by 8 inches. So I'm going to cut it at 3 inches first. So I've got that much left over for some other project. So right now this is the scrap I have from the 8.5 by 11. Then I'm going to flip this around, and it's normally 8.5 across. I'm going to cut it off 1/2 inch, so it's 8. Okay, so this is now 8 inches by 3. I'm going to score it in the middle at 4, halfway. Again, using my scoring blade. And if this piece ever on our trimmer ever becomes not, like it's not doing a good job of scoring anymore, and you can tell by the end here, then Stampin' Up! Replaces those for free. We don't sell the scoring blades anymore. You can buy the cutting blades in a 2-pack, in a 4-pack, but these scoring blades, you just have me call demo support for you and get you a replacement. So how they come out of the track, I want to show you that. So I'm going to hold it this way so you can see. As you push your blades down to the edge, you're going to come to an area that has a little wee cutout. And you can just slide it out of there. So that's my cutting one. And I'm going to put this guy down here and do the same thing. And that's how they come out, is there's a little bumpy area there. So with my one that I had to have replaced, which I had used and used and used, this was like all worn down. And that's how I knew it wasn't working anymore. So to put them back in, you just find that little notch again and line them up and straighten them, and they'll go in just perfectly. All right, so here's our little mini card, but we also need a piece that is 2 3/4 by 3 3/4. So I have a piece of the Gorgeous Grape here. So let's see. I want to eventually have another piece. So I'm just going to take this and cut it in half. Typically, when I cut into a piece of cardstock, I will cut it in half. I always then have one card base to set aside, and I'm not cutting all the way around and ending up with a whole bunch of scraps. I mean, I have a lot of scraps, but you know. So then this piece that's going to go here is going to be 2 3/4 by 3 3/4. So let's get this at 3 3/4 this way. I'm trying to kind of maximize my paper, minimize my waste. So the 2 3/4 by 3 3/4 is going to fit nicely on the front of this piece here. All the measurements are going to be on the blog. They're going to be in the video. You're going to see them and know what you need. Okay, and then we're going to put a piece that we're going to stamp on. I just have some scrap of that. It's 2.5 by 3.5. Cut that to 2.5. Don't lose your Don't stick your white away just yet. 2.5 by 3.5. That's what we're going to do the Stampin' on. So that layers onto the gorgeous grape like this. You see how we have this coming together? So we just need a piece on the inside. If you had, you could leave this plain and not put something on the inside, but I'm going to put a nice piece of white on the inside. And to fit within the realm of this 4 by 3, it's 2 3/4 by 3 3/4. So that's 3 3/4 already. 2 3/4. So you see how I'm cutting my pieces down and then having the largest amount of scrap left without having a whole bunch of little scraps. I know it takes a lot of years of playing around and working with paper to kind of know that that's what that's going to work out to. But so then this piece is going to go down in here. Okay, so we're getting close. We've got that part. The only thing we have left to cut is the triangle piece that fits here. So whenever you do a triangular piece, it rarely lines up perfectly. I think Lee did an amazing job here, and she may have trimmed it back a wee bit. I didn't take the full-on measurements, but basically you're going to start with a 4 by 5 1/4 inch piece. So as if it's a regular layer. So 5 1/4. Here's my little garbage scrap. By 4. And we're going to do a little diagonal cut. So to fit this on the diagonal here, we're going to cut from the top left down to the bottom right. It doesn't really matter which way you cut it because it's cardstock. You just turn it over. So we get that in our trimmer, putting one point there and the other point at the bottom along the track, and then slice. So now I have 2 pieces. I have one left over for another version of this card if I like. So this is going to go on the front, but I'll show you what I mean by the fact that it never really lines up like perfectly. You see how as the edge goes down here, it's off by like a 32nd of an inch or something crazy like that. So it just is. I don't have a good formula for that. I'm sorry. I wish I did. But then to put our pattern paper on here, we're going to go the next normal layer we would go in if we were adding another layer. So that's 3 3/4 by 5. Let's try and get that straight. Yeah, I still have a nice piece left over from this. So 3 3/4 by 5. And you guessed it, we're going to do a triangular cut again from the top down. So if your pattern paper was directional, like this one is here, you want to be mindful of how you're cutting it. But I've used something that's pretty forgiving from that perspective. So I'm going to go into the top corner to the top corner, and we're just going to cut down this in a triangle. We've got a piece to use for something else. And that is all the cutting we need to do. But that was a lot of cutting. So now we're going to do a little bit of assembly. Now here, as we take a look, oh, it looks like I cut this one actually a little bit straighter, so I didn't even have to tell you that it wasn't going to be straight. It came out a lot straighter than it usually does for me. I don't know. I must be having a good crafting day. All right, so we've got some glue on here. Just trying not to get glue all over my fingers. And then we're going to layer this guy on. So you know, if you went and actually layered it on and then cut it after, you wouldn't have this nice edge on here, and that's what we're going for. So that's why we cut the 2 layers, and then, hi Val, then we trimmed them down and added them together, so we would get this nice layered look. So see how that gorgeous grape really isn't a color in that pattern pack, but I think it works really well. Somehow I just think it looks nice together. So now this little triangle is going to go on that triangle. Back to the glue. And then I promise we'll do some stamping and some coloring. Now, have you got your celebration items that you want? Because it's ticking down and new items were added to the celebration offering on February 1st. So there were a few new different items that weren't there at the beginning of January. But, you know, just don't want to leave it too late. All right. The way this card closes, by the way, is the left flap goes in and then the top flap goes down. All right, so that means we need to glue this little mini card in side, but we want to make sure when we do that that it clears the left edge. So if you were to glue it in, say like over here too far, it won't close. So you want to kind of do a visual on that and make sure that wherever you glue it down, you're going to be able to lift this up and fold this over. So I put some glue on the back of the folded area. And with liquid glue, I can like wiggle it into place. I'm pulling the left piece over. And because I have a bit of a pattern paper going on in the back, I have something as a visual to line up against here with the X's in this pattern here. It helps me line it up straight, if that's what you're going for. All right, so here we go. Well, sort of straight. All right, so goes in, goes over. Then on the inside, we're putting that larger piece of 2 3/4 by 3 3/4. We're going to stamp it first, though. And so then we're ready just to add this to the front. Sweet, sweet, sweet. So here's our beautiful, gorgeous grape, which is our accent color, I guess you'd call it, where Lee used soft suede in the sample card we're copying, which is a really nice neutral to make colors pop. Loved that she did that. And then, oh, wait a minute, right. We can glue this piece on the inside. We're not stamping this piece, we're stamping the other piece. There we go. 2 3/4 by 3 3/4 is the piece that goes on the inside. That's where you're going to write your message. You could certainly do more stamping if you like. It's your card. You do you. All right, so let's do our beautiful stamping here. I know that we're typically with Stampin' Blend supposed to be using Tuxedo Black Memento ink. I don't like it with the little bird. I feel like it's too dark. Now, that's what Lee did here, and hers turned out great, but I find it's a bit stark for me, so I'd prefer to go with something a little softer. So I'm using the Gray Granite. So which one am I going to use? Am I going to use the one she used? I haven't used the one with the hat much. I haven't used this in a little while, so let me use the little guy with the little hat, because he's kind of cute and it gives me more to color in. All right, so inking this guy up and stamping him, leaving a little space on the bottom for my greeting. There we go. Just got the cutest little eyes. And we will start doing some coloring in. So I grabbed crumb cake, light and dark, for the color I'm going with. So I'm going to do this one a little bit more on the brown tones than the gray tones, which I tend to have done the owl in a lot of the gray tones. But you know, you do what you want to. If you think that he should be purple, well, you just go purple. You just go with what feels right. So I am being a little bit cautious because I realize I'm using a alcohol-based marker with a not really proper ink to keep it from running outside the edges, but it's working fine. So far, so good. All right, and then we'll take the dark. Well, actually, I guess I could do all of them and then just add some accents, couldn't I, to copy the card. So the gray granite gives enough definition of the hands or the paws and all that. So I'm going to go all the way around. You'll notice I'm not using the brush end tip on this light crumb cake. I'm actually using the bullet tip. I find that the bullet tip and the brush tips have different colors. So in a pack of 2, you're actually getting 4 shades of the blends. I think that's a really good value and a big selling feature. All right, we'll add a little bit of darker color here with the dark crumb cake. Here we go, little dude. Let's see, what will we do? We'll just add a little color in here. And the idea with Stampin' Blends is to kind of work with them when they're wet and before the color is actually dried. So I'm getting a little bit darker over top there, and then maybe a little bit on the eyelids or the eyelashes, and a little bit more where the hair is, just to kind of give it a little bit more definition. Actually, I'm going to color those ears right in. There we go. And then that's good for now. Then we've got some light pumpkin pie, which I thought was a cute color for the feet and the beak. Now, if you find that you use your Stampin' Blends and they're a little bit too dark color, you get too much dark color laid down, go ahead and grab the lifter, which you can purchase as well, and it allows you to soften up the color a little bit. All right, so we're going to do the eyes. I'm using light balmy blue. Nice blue eyes on this guy. Here we go. And then for the hat, we will use light Highland Heather and dark Highland Heather. That will kind of, I think I meant to grab fresh freesia, but that's okay. Kind of goes with our purpley color on our card here. And we've got our little ball on the top of, little pom-pommy thing on the top of the birthday hat for fun. There we go. And then grab the gray granite. Actually, I probably should have grabbed for offsetting color gorgeous gray, but that's okay. And we're going to stamp the greeting. And I like It's Your Day. I think that's a cute one for here. It's good for birthday sort of idea. Do you like this one? Have you used this one? Do you have this in your stash? I just think he's adorable. I love all the critters, though. I'm kind of smitten with them. There you go. It's your day. All right, that's our owl done. And we're ready to finish off the card. And you'll see a little bit more shadow work that was done on this sample card, which really makes that guy pop off the page and look almost 3D-like. When you use your Stampin' Blends on basic white, you're going to get coloring through. So you want to make sure that you layer this onto something. If you just have it on the card front, you're going to see that through. So always put it on a layer of something to kind of hide that a little bit. And I think we're done. So there's our card. This is like a flip-flop. I don't know. There's probably a name for this. But it's kind of another fun way to do a card base to add to your repertoire of different cards. So thanks for watching and joining me along this little journey tonight. Have a wonderful evening, and I will see you next Monday. Bye for now.